I'm looking at this and I'm thinking I'm thinking back on this past year, 2020. So I just actually wrote down January, February, March, April. And what comes up for me is a specific charge that just happened a couple days ago. So let me ask everybody here. If I were to tell you next week, I want to have a meeting with all of you. Okay, don't tell anybody about it. I'm only inviting a handful of people. How many people do you think you would expect to be on that call or in that meeting? If I say a handful of people.
5.
5, yeah.
Yeah.
5.
4. Yeah, 5 or 4.
Yeah. So
4.
anyway, someone that I've been in communications with, who's been a mentor to me for a long time, texted me and said this. I missed the meeting because I was just so busy and I marked the wrong date on my calendar. But I found out that 50 people were in that meeting that I wasn't supposed to tell anyone about, and I was relieved. I was kind of relieved that I missed it. Um, and her assistant is kind of putting the guilt trip on me, saying, you missed something extraordinary, something spectacular. And my expectation, because of my expectation of 4 or 5, and then seeing that now they're broadcasting it and letting everybody see it, and because 50 people attended, I kind of feel lied to. And I think that's the kind of conversations that I'm really appreciating having, because I'm starting to see that slowing down and really having these intimate conversations are some of the biggest accomplishments that I want to give myself credit for, and that I feel like I'm not the only one who might have felt like they were disappointed or that they were lied to, because they create this moment of intimacy, but it's really just to promote, or really just to to provide the illusion of an intimate experience, or the illusion of an authentic experience. But it's really, I don't know, my expectation. I'm looking at my expectations and intentions now too, because my intention was to have a meaningful connection with this person, and if she felt safe inviting 2 or 3 other people in that conversation, then I think that's great. I thought that was a step forward. But at first I was disappointed in myself. I regretted missing it. But then when I saw what it really was, I kind of felt like it was an accomplishment that I did miss it. So that's kind of where this whole idea of coming out of this year, stepping away from speeding up, from going big or go home, stepping back away from this grandiosity, and really appreciating these small interactions, these fellowships. That was my biggest success, I think, for this year. So that's what came up for me reading this entire list. That okay, I spent what was it, 8 months being a nanny and doing what I can, and then these last 2 months, I felt like I've been very productive and got a lot of work done as far as planning. But the thing that just kept coming up for me was what happened a couple of days ago in that event, as I'm reading about this. And what would have been a failure or a disappointment ended up feeling kind of like a success, like a moderate success. Like now I see something, I have some kind of privileged information now about how I need to approach my year coming up. So that feels like a completion to me. So thank you.
That's really great.
That's what comes
Yeah,
up.
and it doesn't matter if it happened on the first of the year, if it happened just yesterday, because it's really what you're completing in that moment of now.
Mhm.
So in that moment of now, again, when you access it through simple breathing, some meditation, you start to see those things running around that maybe either happened yesterday or earlier in the year, but you notice they're still there. And then the energy signature, or the emotional signature that it has with it. And that's what you've taught us, Mike, is really to look at that emotion that's surrounded with either that event or that relationship, and start to see if we can't alchemize that and progress that emotion, or notice that it's regressed, You were the one who really gave me those levers and dials that I could now apply to something like this and like look at the event or
Mhm.
the relationship. Thank you. How about for you, Nefertiti?
Wow, this is amazing.
Thank you.
Um, for me, the word stagnation came up because I felt that like I don't know what I don't know. So as I go through my year, my life, honestly, it's like I just keep on hacking away, hacking away, hacking away. Let's try this, let's try that, let's try this. And it's like a whirlpool of stagnation because I have yet, well, this is a lot clearer. I do it differently, but I haven't at one time period to sit and clear everything out in a year. And it's like, when you called it a mood board instead of a vision board, like that really was key for me because my emotional state is like so, so precious. I find that my emotions will run how I present, where I show up, where I don't show up. It just like runs me. And then being mindful of where these emotions are coming from with this list, um, it's just such a powerful thing to do. I was looking here at rewriting storylines and especially the disappointment pieces. I really liked what everyone's brought up so far and like taking it back to how did I want things to be and not only how but why. Um, this month too, I was thinking about how my year's gone. I was thinking while we are looking at this, and I spent the past 8 months kind of just in this whirlwind of activity and wanting to relocate. I want a new start. I want something different. And I came from a lot of pain, you know?
Yeah.
And even though I've been in situations in the past where I know that no matter where I go, I always take me with me so I can move across the country or across the world. If the pain's inside, the pain's gonna come with me.
Right.
So not relocating physically and being able to sit here and relocate emotionally where I live.
Oh,
This is
that's
like
beautiful.
huge. Um, and all the questions like, what is acknowledgement? Just like I said, deepening relationships. Like, have I been honest to myself? Like, I found myself having conversations with my family members here, and they'll say something to me, and I love our relationships because it's based on love. So my aunt will say something to me like, "You can't lie to me," and I'm thinking to her like, "I'm not lying to you." And then the concept of, well, perhaps I'm not being 100% honest with myself. So therefore, when I'm speaking with her, she can clarify to me like, "Hey, you're missing a couple pieces. That's not all, complete."
Right. Yes.
So
Good.
yeah. In those relationships, when you feel safe, you can take that information and then not use it as like a a gamut on your head, like, oh, yeah. I don't have to beat myself up, and because it is a process. And
Yes.
I like the difference between finished and complete. If I'm not finished, the journey continues, and it's just giving me more opportunity to have more power, more
Yeah.
control over the reins of where this story is heading. you know and also when you said that we can do it at any time during the year, how you start in August around your birthday, like um my first thought of the overwhelmingness of information that could possibly come through from doing an entire year, but starting here and now and then working it bit by bit, and then also using the small groups to have those conversations in case I don't feel safe talking to someone in my life. I have fellowships that I can share how I feel and get more clarity too. So I'm just thankful
That's
that you
great.
thought this through. Yes, indeed.
Yeah, you said two things that are so beautiful to underscore, which is this is always a moving target. It's never a finished, but there's many moments of completion that you can attain throughout the journey for sure. And again, the journey is really with no real destination. There was a quote, and I loved it. So there's no destination, but really what you're looking to do is it's the progressive realization of worthy ideals. I think it was Nightingale, Earl Nightingale, that said that. But I love this. And again, it's returning you. Maybe it's returning you because we're reviewing, we're restoring. Maybe we're returning to a place, which is this real beautiful first sentence of being able to be with anything exactly the way that it is and isn't, exactly the way it was and wasn't, without any loss of power or sense of possibility. That's the part that people always forget. Without any, so you really want to stand in that place. It's not like, oh, I'll just take it, I'll just accept what happened. It's really, and Mike, this reminds me of that quote that you've shared with me before, that our lives were made up of stories, not atoms. So in this journey to be without any loss of power or sense of possibility, it's really what we say about it. So the completion is really like our final word. Like, what do we say about this particular past 12 months? And what do we say about the future that's now emerging when you're looking in that direction, so to speak? And it's really, past, present, future. I've heard that it's all happening at the same time, um, and the real objective and the real healing here is to be present in this moment and look to see, if there's anything that needs to be healed or anything, so that we don't bring it forward to the next year. So that's beautiful. So thank you. So really, in a very short way, some of the actions that you can take around this beautiful list, and I'll send it to you guys, is really those deep dives like you're doing right now in this recording, which is so beautiful. Is there anything else? I'm just going to stop sharing this one and start sharing some of the other stuff that. Oh, Leo found his way back.
Open up the doors.
Oh, good, because we're gonna look at some fun stuff now.
Are we? Oh, is there another part?
Well, it's really more about what you could create once you're standing at that precipice of the future. What are some of the things you could capture? What are some of the things? And again, knowing that this is a work in progress, a moving target. Your idea is to become clear about who you are in the future you're living into, not necessarily certain about all the steps that you're going to take to get there.
There was just a little story that came up for me.
Oh, good.
I just want to share quickly. And it's an artist, a British artist. I can't remember her name, but she came from a very tough background. She had a really tough bringing up. And one of her well-known pieces is an unmade bed that was at the Tate Gallery. That she created a buzz about that. And then another piece she did was a tent, and she had sewn on it all the names of the people that she'd been to bed with.
Oh, wow. That's really interesting.
It's taken her ages, and people, like, you go inside the tent as well and you just see the names of all these
incredible
people. But what happened was that got destroyed in a fire. And she said, I could have made like untold millions if I had recreated that piece of art. But she said that wouldn't have been authentic to why I created it in the first place. Wow. That would be like a simulation, going through the actions of doing something to make money. It wouldn't represent all the feelings that I went through
Truly.
while I was actually making it. So she didn't make another one.
Wow. So she
And
was really complete.
yeah, I think that
Yeah.
that's it. I think if you
Yeah.
can, the thing that probably most people that's worth being proud about in a way is that how you've overcome the temptations of everyday life to separate from your
Mhm.
integrity and your values. And if you can kind of stay close to that, then
Yes.
that's the thing.
That is beautiful. I love what you said. And it really is, in many ways, a healing process. I mean, we put it into these little structures, and you get your calendars and you get your notebooks. So there's that chronos portion to it, but it really is about, cleaning or purifying that space for yourself. And for me, it's so important because it's from which I create, is from that space. And I can't, if I'm, uh, in a chaotic space and I can't see things clearly, I'm not going to create. I'm going to miscreate. I'm going to miscreate mistakes. Um, so to be present in that and focused in that, and so many people that have done this process, it's amazing. They have creative spurts like that woman that you're talking about, and create.
Tracy Emming is her name. I just remembered.
What is it?
Tracy Emming.
Tracy Emming.
Tracy
Oh,
Emming.
wow. It's so
Emming.
cool. And I love that because I use this a lot with visionality too. Not always just at the end of a year, but maybe even at the end of a project. Especially, from my background, which is like filmmaking, you can imagine, sometimes projects could take 2-3 years to complete. I know that I've been involved in projects that sometimes were 4 or 5 years, and at the end of something that enormous, you really want to be left again in the present moment, complete. So that's that. So that's looking back, and again, so your past, you're putting completely your past in the past where it belongs. You've looked at what happened and what you said happened, the story about that. You've separated, you've examined it. It's now all in the past. You're standing in the present moment, looking at the future, whichever direction that is for you. Or one could say you're standing in a kind of what I'd like to say like a lotus position, really being receiving, open, tuning into a kind of vibration. You could say it's the vision vibration or the master vibration or the future vibration. And then you start to kind of put some pieces together. So I'll share this because this is just, I'm not done with this year's or next year's or anything like that yet. But I wanted to show you just some examples. Let me just get to that one. So one of the sort of themes that started to emerge in the last couple of years, that I want to keep moving forward into new years, is this idea of a priestess. Priestess path. I've been working with Elizabeth Wilcock now for a couple of years, and she's a teacher that kind of supports me and helps guide me through this journey. And so it's something that from year to year I want to keep bringing forward into the new year, projecting into the future. Again, this idea of projecting or vision casting. And so she's beautiful to look at, and she reminds me of a whole world. So I have her as part of my vision board. And the idea is, I go through these images as often as I possibly can. I meditate on them, I think about them, I journey them, or create like visual journeys or visual guided meditations. And they mean something to me. So it doesn't matter if it um, if there are any words or anything. If there's a mood, again, going to what you were saying, Nefertiti, that you like that mood board. These are mood boards, vision boards, whatever you want to call them, works of art. Sometimes I use just all my photography. Other times I find these beautiful images, whether I'm reading an article or I'm watching, or I go specifically to a website like unsplash.com that has royalty free images, and I spend hours sometimes just looking at images that really start to speak to me. So let me just, and then it could start to tell a story. So something like this starts to tell a story that I'm sort of in my inner space and in my inner vision starting to formulate for myself, which is what I would call like a spiritual prototype. So I've got what I look like in this, reality, in this 3D existence. And then there's, what I'm conjuring up, what I'm thinking. Um, and the idea that there's energy that we can heal from our hands, from our interaction with energy, like in this photograph here. For me, I love music, I love sound, so for me this represents a place that I go to where I'm being healed by vibration and sound, and I'm with my sort of other sisters or fellowships. So I imagine these to be other people, whether they could be ancestors that have passed away, they could be people in your life right now, or a kind of heart desire to meet a particular person and formulate a relationship that has very unique qualities to it, that's more experiencing the spiritual side of who we are, the being side, rather than just always the human physical sort of side. And then I've got, whenever possible, if I've got something I like that either speaks to me, an image, and for me, the idea of being a spiritual warrior and what that looks like in my own mind's eye, I try to capture. And then if there are words or decrees or proclamations or mantras, I add those too. Um, Again, this idea of Valkyrie, which Elizabeth has been teaching me, this idea that you can be both a warrior and very empathic, spiritual minded type of person. So these are just some interesting images. If I have meditations and I see something very specific in a meditation, I'll look for something and I'll add it to my vision board or my mood board.